So let me read the poem that poem/prayer that she wrote for the time of Advent. God of new creating, who beckons us to the dance of birthing and sustains us in our laboring, hear this prayer. From the fear of the unknown, deliver me. From doubts of my creativity, deliver me. From ridicule by those around me, deliver me. From my excuses about my abilities, my age, my education, my looks, my status, deliver me. With your promise of companionship, comfort me. With your creative spirit, bless me. With your pledge of sustenance, strengthen me. With your embrace of all of me, heal me and set me to motion. You who called me to life, that you may be born again in me, blessed be, in this and all seasons.
Within a few days, Mary set out and hurried to the hill country in the town of Judah, where she entered Zechariah's house and greeted Elizabeth. As soon as Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. In a loud voice she exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. But why am I so favored that the mother of the Messiah should come to me? The moment your greeting reached my ears, the child in my womb leapt for joy. Blessed is she who believed that what our God said to her would be accomplished." Mary said, "My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you, my Savior. For you have looked with favor upon your lowly servant, and from this day forward all generations will call me blessed. For you, the Almighty, have done great things for me, and holy is your name. Your mercy reaches from age to age for those who fear you. You have shown strength with your arm, you have scattered the proud with your deceit, you have deposed the mighty from their thrones and raised the lowly to high places. You have filled the hungry with good things, but you have sent the rich away empty. You have come to the aid of Israel, your servant, mindful of your mercy, the promise you made to our ancestors, to Sarah and Abraham, and their descendants forever."
Would you pray with me? Divine love, let us know that love in the depths of our beings, so that we can give it generously in this world, even when it's difficult. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be filled with your light, your hope, and your wisdom. Amen. So the last 2 Sundays before Christmas, we traditionally talk about Mary's pregnancy. And we traditionally, on the 4th Sunday of Advent, celebrate love. So I merged the two together today, and I thought about Mary being pregnant with love. Pregnant with love. Here she's about to give birth to a little boy who will grow up into a compassionate, compelling, rebellious, challenging, caring, generous, kind man who is full of love for the world. And we could think of this 2 ways. We could say, wow, what a cool thing that happened 2,000 years ago. Or we could say, wow, what an amazing thing that can happen each moment today. And you look at me and you say, how does it happen again? And I say to you, because metaphorically, we are all pregnant with love. And I'm sorry if, guys, that's a little weird metaphor for you, but, work with me here. We are all pregnant with love. As Jan Richardson so eloquently put it, she said, the one who called us into being, sets us forth to love, to be love in the world. I think that the very core of each of us is divine essence, is love with a capital L, which is layered over with ego and emotions and feelings and opinions and experiences, but underneath all of those layers of life and flesh and blood is just love with a capital L that we can give birth to and should give birth to, hopefully in as many moments as we can, in as many places as we possibly can. And sometimes that's really easy. Sometimes we're just in a really good space. We woke up on the right side of the bed. There's a beautiful sunrise outside. The weather's a little bit warmer. We're like, hey, this is good. I can love everybody and everything today. Or we're going to be with people who are nice and loving. Wasn't it a MASH quote? It's nice to be nice to the nice. You know, it's easy to love those people who love us and are kind to us and generous with us and helpful. And then there are those places where it's just not so easy to birth love. Where is it not easy to birth love for you? Or in what state of mind is it difficult for you to birth love in the world? When you're depressed, it is hard to birth love. When else? Or with who else?
When you've been hurt.
When you've been hurt. When else? When people mistreat you. Absolutely. When you're angry.
Toward people who mistreat others.
Toward people who mistreat others. It's hard to love those who mistreat others. So our love gets covered up by these hurts and these pains and the anger. Our experiences of being mistreated. People who push our buttons the wrong way. Or sometimes we're just struggling with life so much that it's hard to remember that there's love down there anywhere. We're exhausted and burned out from whatever, and maybe it's the holidays. Or we're dealing with our own physical struggles, our own health struggles, so much so that everything else, there's no time and space for it. So the challenge is that I have a sense that our purpose in life, the work of our life, is to birth love. Because that's who we are. That makes sense? But we forget who we are, and so we forget to birth love, and so our candles go out. And they're trying again. And if I could have planned that, I might have, but I didn't. Because it's the perfect metaphor for what happens to us. The wax creeps up on our poor little wick, and we start to drown. And our little light tries to go out. It gets dimmer and dimmer, when really it's meant to light up the room and the world around us. So let me share a story. True story happened many decades ago, maybe not many. Good 3, 4 decades ago, maybe. That's many, isn't it? How many is many? That's a few. That's a few. Who determined that anyways? A couple is 2, few is 3, many is anything more than 3, right? Anyways, I digress. Squirrel. It was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve. And Bonnie was a young nurse, Teresa, many years ago. She was a young nurse working in the hospital with a couple of young kids at home, and she was starting her second shift that day. So it had been a long day. And she was thinking about the next morning when her kids would wake up to all their presents and be excited about what Santa brought them. She typically worked in the operating room, but in that particular hospital, I don't know how it normally works, but she said that they put the nurses where they were most needed. And at the end of her first shift, she was asked to take care of Emma's treatments for the night, which would be difficult and take a good hour. But the charge nurse said to you, "Don't worry, Emma will make it easy for you." Well, Bonnie knew a little bit about Emma because she'd been working on that floor for the day. Emma was about 80 years old, tiny, frail little lady who was struggling with advanced carcinoma that was gradually eating away at her face. So much so that it was exposing blood vessels and making her prone to hemorrhaging. So Bonnie walked into her room that night. She was one of the few on that progressive floor that would not be going to be with family, at least for the evening. She couldn't even be in a nursing home where care was so intense that basically she'd made the hospital unit her home. And so she had a little Christmas tree set up and lights on the tree, and the nurses had decorated it with ornaments. Bonnie walked into the room and introduced herself. And Emma said, "Do you like my tree?" She could hardly see it herself for all of the bandages, and her eyesight had grown very weak. But Bonnie said, "Yeah, it's a beautiful tree." And Emma asked her to put on to change the tape of the Christmas music. There was music playing softly in the background, and she put it on and she started playing Silent Night. And she looked out the window and thought of her kids for a moment. Looked out over the white snow and the colorful lights that the hospital had put up to try and make it Christmassy for the patients. And then she turned back and she started doing Emma's treatment. Emma had her whole head and face wrapped in bandages, and as she started to remove the bandages, she was shocked at how disfigured Emma had become. She tried very hard not to show her shock, but she said she was ill-prepared for the extent of the disfigurement, that she had never ever seen anyone who had looked so poorly. And as she's unwrapping it, Emma says to her, "You're not scared, are you, dear?" And she assured her that no, she wasn't scared. And then they started to talk. And Bonnie talked about her kids and how they were waiting for Santa. And Emma asked about her family and her traditions. And then suddenly, as she's doing her treatments, Bonnie feels Emma's hand on her face. She wants to know, she said, "I want to know what you look like." And she felt that her hair was tucked under her nurse's cap, so it was that long ago. I don't know, you can tell me how long ago it was, Teresa, that they wore nurses' caps. Are we on Betty yet?
More than that.
And she noticed that she had long hair tucked under that cap, and she asked if she could feel her hair. And so Bonnie took off her gloves, and she took off her nurse's cap, and she let down her long hair, and Emma ran her hands through her hair and talked about when she was young, and how when she had long hair, and how her husband loved her long hair, and how he would tell her how beautiful she was and how proud he was of her and of their children. And Emma talked about their Christmas traditions that they kept together, and she talked about how much she loved her husband, and she talked about how grateful she was that he wasn't there anymore to see how disfigured she had become. And as they wrapped up this about hour-long treatment, Emma asked Bonnie if she would sit for just a couple minutes. And Bonnie thought, the night's quiet, I'll sit for a little bit. And she sat next to her, and Emma took her hands and just started to talk to her and give her advice. She said, I can tell you're tired and you're worn out. I remember being a young mother and being exhausted at Christmas time, trying to get everything done and trying to be everything for the kids. Then she told Bonnie, she said, don't ever take your health for granted. And live each moment to the fullest. Be grateful that you can drive, and you can read, and you can make dinner, and you can dance with your baby girl in your arm around the house, like Bonnie had told her she did. Be grateful for all of the little things. And she made Bonnie promise that she would slow down enough to live every moment to its fullest. And then she thanked her for being so gentle with treatments that could have been so painful. And she said, Merry Christmas. And because Bonnie didn't work on that floor, she never saw Emma again. But she never forgot that night and those lessons and how touched she was by this woman. Both of them, in that space and time, gave birth to love. Here it was a night where they both could have been in a really rotten, awful mood. In pain and not with loved ones. And yet, Emma let her light and love shine forth in the care and compassion of a young working nurse. Even though Emma herself was alone, was disfigured, was in great amounts of pain, she still birthed love in that place. And Bonnie, as a young working mother, could have been gruff and frustrated at not being able to be home with her kids and exhausted after working a full shift already. And she could have come in and she could have been curt. She could have done those treatments and then gotten the heck out of there without letting her hair down, without stopping to listen and hold Bonnie's hands. But she took the time to do that. They both opened their hearts enough to give birth to love in that place and time. They held space for love for each other. It's not rocket science. It's the core of each of our beings, and it doesn't take much to do it. And I know it's hard sometimes. And I know we get caught up in our own stuff sometimes. And that's why I read that prayer. Because Jan Richardson says we're all called to dance a dance of birthing. And what we're birthing is love. And in that prayer, I love the ding, the bell. Either I'm done or an angel is here. I'm going with the angel because I'm not quite done. But this is it. This is it for each of us. Why we close up and don't let that love out. She says, from fear of the unknown, deliver me. From doubts of my creativity, deliver me. From ridicule by those around me, deliver me. From my excuses. We all have those darn excuses about my abilities, my age, my education, my status. Deliver me. And Divine One, with your promise of companionship, comfort me. With your creative spirit, bless me. With your pledge of sustenance, strengthen me. With your embrace of all of me, heal me and set me to motion. Set me to motion, birthing love in as many moments, in as many places as we can. Amen.